It's going to be very difficult for the McCanns to leave Praia de Luz without a feeling of betrayal, because it's the last place that they had Madeleine for sure. And there's always that feeling, that hope that she might walk in one day and say, "Where is everybody? They've all gone." When they get back to Leicestershire, of course, they've got another problem of adaptation, which is that there will be evidence of Madeleine all about, that they have to resolve her bedroom, her toys, her friends. A whole new phase of coping will come into operation at that point.
But would it be healthy for them to leave Praia de Luz? Maybe they need a distraction, get away from the bad associations that resort has.
At some point they will have to leave Praia de Luz. At the moment it's a bit of a comfort zone, that's true. They can stay in touch with the progress of the investigation. In fact, I believe the Portuguese police have suggested that they should stay for a while because they are expecting certain developments. But it's very difficult for them to leave without a sense of closure, without knowing what actually happened there. Once they know for sure that Madeleine is dead or she is recovered, then of course it will be very easy for them to move on, and I would imagine that they would never want to go back there.
Let's talk about this roller coaster emotional ride they've had, this overwhelming support, the sympathy, and the backing from the public. That's changed now. In the eyes of some of the Portuguese media, they've been implicated in the abduction of their own daughter, their friends are suspects, and they're hounded by the press. And also there's some question about them being implicated as suspects themselves. Tell me about how this has changed the anger and how that anger might help them in the therapy process more than anything else.
This is altogether possibly the worst thing that you can imagine happening to a person, probably worse than getting killed yourself, is to have a child of that age disappear. I mean, to lose a baby is pretty tragic, to lose an older child is tragic, but the worst of all is to lose a child who is just beginning to emerge as a delightful, cuddly little human being with its own personality, traits and characteristics. Now, of course, in the case of the McCanns, they start off with a shock, horror, discovering that the child is missing. That's the first panic. Then they have to rush about hoping that it will be quickly resolved, that she will be found somewhere nearby. She isn't. So then they have to deal with the guilt, where people might blame them. How could you possibly leave a child of that age, even if you are just 100 yards or so away at a restaurant? I wouldn't have done that. People are going to be blaming them, and yet it is the sort of thing that could happen to anybody. So they've got the guilt to deal with. Then over a long period of time it becomes progressively clear that there's going to be no early solution to this. As time goes by, it becomes increasingly likely that Madeleine is dead. It becomes increasingly likely that we will never know what happened to her and whether or not she is dead. From their point of view, that is also a horrible thing to deal with, the lack of closure, not knowing, imagining what might have happened to her and what horrors that she experienced, or possibly is even still experiencing. So the next thing they get is that the press begins to turn against them. That people begin to say, well, why is this couple getting so much publicity for their child when people are disappearing all over the world all the time, and resenting them for that. Others are beginning to, there's a whispering campaign, maybe you did it, maybe your friends did it. All of these things would be extremely difficult to deal with. But there is just that possibility that if the media and the public in their reaction make them angry, then they could turn that anger to their advantage, and effectively this could be a means of dealing with the guilt. They could say, well, screw you, what do you know about it? Anger could conceivably replace guilt. I don't believe the McCanns will ever fully recover from this. There will never be a day that goes by without some intrusive thoughts about how things might have been different if only I hadn't done this or that, or perhaps we didn't fully explore the possibilities. They will be imagining what has happened, they'll be hypothesizing who took Madeleine and why, and this is going to go on for the rest of their lives. I don't imagine that they will ever fully recover and become the happy, carefree people that they presumably were before this terrible event.